simple switch, whether it's for electricity, water, or gas, typically gives us a sense of guaranteed access to these resources. But we rarely pause to consider the adequacy and sustainability of the natural resources that power our daily lives. Our world is more connected than ever, with a growing population that has increasing energy needs. Energy is vital for powering our homes, transportation, and industries. Abundant energy is the backbone of modern civilization. However, the rising demand for electricity and fuel, coupled with the relentless extraction of natural resources, is putting a strain on our planet's delicate ecosystems. The consequences of excessive energy consumption are far-reaching, affecting climate change, air quality, and the depletion of precious natural resources. Welcome back to our series, Sustainability in Action. I'm Ross Vermeer. In this episode, we explore the current state of energy consumption, assess its profound impact on the environment, and see if we can find sustainable solutions from various businesses for a better future. But first, let's take a moment to understand the intricate relationship between climate change and energy consumption.
Climate change, caused by human activities, refers to long-term shifts in global and local weather patterns. When we use fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas to make energy, it releases gases that trap heat in the air, causing climate change. This means that the energy we consume, especially from fossil fuels, directly affects our climate. Climate change is significantly impacted by energy consumption. The burning of fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, and natural gas for energy production, releases greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, primarily carbon dioxide, or CO2. These greenhouse gases trap heat from the sun, leading to a warming effect known as the greenhouse effect. The increased concentration of these gases in the atmosphere contributes to the phenomenon of global warming. The consequences of global warming include rising sea levels, melting polar ice caps and glaciers, more frequent and severe heat waves, changes in precipitation patterns, shifts in ecosystems, and increased risks of extreme weather events like hurricanes, droughts, and floods. These changes have far-reaching implications for biodiversity, agriculture, water resources, human health, and socio-economic systems. Getting fossil fuels from the earth also harms the environment. Mining for coal and drilling for oil can damage habitats, pollute water, and disrupt ecosystems. Transporting and storing fossil fuels also carries risks of accidents and spills, which harm the environment and natural resources. On the other hand, renewable energy sources offer a solution to tackle climate change and reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. Renewable energy comes from sources like the sun, wind, water, and heat from the earth. These sources are constantly replenished by nature and don't release harmful gases when we use them to make energy. By using renewable energy, we can cut down on carbon emissions, fight climate change, and protect our limited natural resources.
Climate change has been a subject of ongoing debate and concern, presenting us with pressing challenges. It is crucial to consider our course of action and the steps we can take to address this issue. Understanding the definition and importance of energy and water resources is essential in this context. To shed light on these critical matters, we are privileged to welcome some esteemed guests who will share their perspectives. Let's now turn to them to gain valuable insights into these pressing issues.
Take climate change as an example. I think there's a global consensus that all the countries, governments, and corporates need to work together to achieve what we so-called the net zero or carbon neutrality. A lot of countries have decided or the target to be set by 2050, including Hong Kong as well. And some other big economies like China and India are also pledging carbon neutrality by 2060 and 2070. That helps us by the end of this century, 2100, that the global temperature would not be shooting up as compared to the pre-industrial levels. And that would help us in addressing a lot of environmental issues.
In the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development by United Nations, out of 17 Sustainable Development Goals, water and energy are two of the major goals. Water sustainability, by the definition of United Nations, means, first, the sustainable use and development of water resources. Second, robust and effective water governance with more effective institutions and administrative systems. And third, improved wastewater management taking account of environmental limits and universal access to safe drinking water and sanitation. As for electricity and gas sustainability, concluded as energy, is defined by the energy efficiency, renewable energy with low pollution, and greenhouse gas emission. Also, key components of a strategy are to transform the energy system, including mitigating energy demand, decarbonization of the power system, further electrification of energy supply, and phasing out fossil fuel use in other sectors.
Energy consumption is a global issue that affects us all. But let's bring the focus closer to home in Hong Kong. In our vibrant city of 7.5 million people, energy consumption plays a significant role in our daily lives. Have you ever wondered how we consume energy here? What are the patterns that emerge?
Did you know that Hong Kong consumes a significant amount of water each year? In fact, it's equivalent to filling 500,000 swimming pools. According to a government report in 2021, around 75% of Hong Kong's total water consumption came from Dongjiang water, while 25% was obtained through local rainfall collection and recycling efforts. Water and energy are closely connected. Generating electricity and gas requires water for various processes like extraction, cooling, and cleaning. This means that the sustainability of our water and of our energy systems goes hand in hand. In Hong Kong, the fuel mix for electricity generation consists of 48% natural gas, 28% nuclear energy and renewable energy, and 24% coal. When it comes to town gas production, 60% is derived from natural gas, 39% from naphtha, and 1% from landfill gas, which is a renewable energy source produced from waste. Hong Kong also has a small amount of renewable energy produced within its territory. We have solar energy, which uses photovoltaic panels to generate electricity and heat water. Wind energy is harnessed through wind turbines to generate electricity. There's also waste-to-energy, which involves processes like sludge incineration and biogas collection to convert waste into heat and/or electricity. Lastly, biodiesel, made from recycled oil, is commonly used as an alternative fuel for vehicles. Based on the latest Hong Kong Energy End-Use Data Report of 2022, the energy consumption per person in 2020 was recorded at 36.4 gigajoules per capita. It's worth noting that there has been a commendable reduction in energy consumption per person, with a decrease of 9.2% between 2010 and 2020. This reduction signifies an average annual decline of 1%.
It's encouraging to learn that energy consumption per person in Hong Kong has actually decreased, indicating some success in our collective efforts towards energy efficiency and conservation. Today, We are delighted to welcome David Simmons, representing CLP, one of the largest energy power businesses in the Asia-Pacific region. He will provide valuable insights into CLP's sustainable electricity practices.
CLP is a power company. We supply electricity to customers fundamentally in Hong Kong, but also in mainland China, India, and in Australia, as well as some other smaller markets. And as an essential service, electricity is something which has a close association with sustainability. I think as an electric utility, asset lives are often measured in decades, and the planning associated with those assets and the impact that they can have on communities is very substantial. And we've all seen the power that electricity has, pardon the pun, to change and improve life for the communities in which we operate in. And so sustainability is very much at the heart of what our business is about, and increasingly so when we're dealing with issues like climate change, which requires a fundamental shift in the way that energy is produced and distributed to consumers. It requires us to have a fundamental focus on how that challenge is met in a way which continues to be affordable and reliable for the customers and communities in which we operate. Responding to climate change and transitioning to net zero is an enormous challenge for electricity systems around the world. A lot of people have the superficial thought that it's simply about building more renewable energy. But the challenge we have is how to integrate what is essentially a variable resource with renewable energy. When the sun's not shining, solar energy is not producing. When the wind is not blowing, wind turbines are not spinning, and yet people's demand and need for power remains the same. So it's an enormous challenge to be able to transition entirely the electricity system in order to be both reliable and affordable for customers over the long term.
Switching to renewable energy sources offers us a great chance to make a difference. By using clean, sustainable energy, we can reduce harmful carbon emissions, tackle climate change, and preserve our precious natural resources. Now, it's time to hear from esteemed business leaders who understand the significance of energy consumption in their operations. These visionary leaders oversee businesses that consume substantial amounts of energy, whether it be in buildings or for transportation. They will share their invaluable insights on how we can effectively reduce our energy usage.
Recently, some of my engineers worked with a company in Shenzhen and developed a container-sized battery, basically. It's about 17,000, the handheld battery that you have got, but this is a big one. Why will you have to use such a big battery on site? It's because most of the project, the electric company cannot give sufficient power to us to operate all the plant and equipment on site, especially the tower crane that we use are really heavier and they use a lot of energy. So we have to employ a lot of diesel generator on site to supplement the electricity that we need. Now, even though we are buying biodiesel, but still that will have some carbon emission. Now we developed this big container-sized battery. It can charge during the nighttime when the site is empty, it's closed basically. And then in the daytime, they release energy. So by doing that, we cut down enormous amount of carbon emission. So I give my team a really big thumbs up. And now this, of course, is also become a commercial product. We are selling to other contractors as well. It's just beginning, but this is what we can do.
We try to benchmark against the government's vision, which is a 50% reduction in carbon for large buildings by 2050, and are glad that we have already achieved this many years in advance. We will continue to look at ways that we can be more efficient on our part at the cruise terminal, but we also hope that the government will enable our customers, the cruise lines, to be more environmentally friendly as well by enabling the use of liquid natural gas as a marine fuel in Hong Kong. Liquid natural gas has virtually no particulate outputs, vastly reduced nitrous oxide outputs, almost no sulfur oxide outputs, and has a lower carbon footprint than traditional fuels. So just within this year, we now have liquid natural gas fuel available. It will be used by the electric utilities, and the ships will be able to use it too once a regulatory framework is in place. In fact, we could use this fuel here at the cruise terminal and also at the other container terminals around Hong Kong.
Well, I think we exert a lot of efforts to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and other ozone depleting emissions. And the mitigation strategies that make a difference are fleet management and renewable energy. The former is the gradual phasing out of conventional diesel fleet, replacing them by electric trucks and hybrid type of trucks, and perhaps later on we can use more renewable energy source like hydrogen, for example. Another important part is building shore power, although they are not our direct emissions, certainly I think which will help shipping lines to decarbonize when they are in the port. So we connect them to landside electricity rather than actually they burning fossil fuels alongside our quay, therefore reducing their direct carbon footprints and improving air qualities in the port community. The learnings and the benefits resulting from these projects have been shared across our entire organization to facilitate the installation of additional shore power connections in other countries. And we need the local governments to work with us to provide the right electricity supply to the port, obviously. The other part is I mentioned about renewable energy. I think I'm passionate about the possibility of progressively using these renewable energy in all our ports to minimize the reliance on fossil fuels and reducing carbon dioxide emissions. The installations of solar panels in ports, that's been the most popular renewable energy source because the technology is actually quite mature. However, I think more recently I've been working on exploring the viability of the use of green and blue hydrogen. And at present, the applications of hydrogen fuel cell to power port equipment is in the prototype stage. And we have 2 of those that we're testing in one of our terminals in the portfolio. But more importantly, I think there's a lot of work being done to develop a hydrogen combustion engine that, in my view, will revolutionize not just port equipment, but also the whole transport fleet of hauliers, etc., which I'm excited about that development, in fact.
Being an express logistic company, our air network accounts for about 90% of our carbon footprint. So the biggest opportunity is really in reducing our carbon footprint in this space. The use of sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, is actually produced from waste oil, which reduces greenhouse gas emission by 80% over its life cycle, compared with conventional fossil fuel jet kerosene that it replaces. And we plan to increase the use of SAF blending on our aircraft to more than 30%. The use of SAF in our air network is really an important game changer, as it gave us the opportunity to move from conventional carbon offsetting to carbon insetting, which is to reduce carbon emission within our own value chain instead of outside of it.
The team has been working closely with suppliers and solution providers to ensure the energy and packaging materials we use are produced or created sustainably. We have been using B5 biodiesel since 2014 to power our mobile equipment and have been transitioning to electric models where feasible. In 2019, we installed a large rooftop solar farm consisting of 516 photovoltaic panels. We recognized, however, that this solar system alone would not generate enough electricity to power our facility. So we also signed an agreement with CLP in 2022 to purchase renewable energy certificates equivalent to 45.9 gigawatt hours of sustainably generated power over 6 years.
For the hydrogen fuel cell bus, it only takes 10 to 15 minutes to recharge. Moreover, the hydrogen fuel cell bus could run for more than 400 kilometers, compared with the battery electric bus could only run for 200 kilometers.
We have some new energy buses, the electric buses, and we often take these out to visit different groups, and we can explain the buses, how they work, and what the benefits are. Also, we offer initiatives to people to try out the new energy buses.
And that's really a combination of adopting new modes of technology, looking at different ways of working, but also working with our key stakeholders, including the electricity companies here in Hong Kong. Because obviously our network is electrified, and so the largest part of our emissions comes from the electricity that we use to power our network. We've recently been replacing the chillers in our network, so the chillers that support our air conditioning systems. We completed phase 1 of this project last year, and we replaced 154 chillers, which will result in them being 30% more energy efficient. We have phase 2 of the project, which will be completed by 2026, and that should drive another 20% reduction in the energy usage. Really, we're focusing on energy efficiency, on reducing our energy consumption, and on the generation of renewable electricity. On the renewable electricity side, we've set ourselves a target of generating 1 million kilowatt hours of renewable electricity by the end of this year. So we already have PV solar systems installed on our office buildings, on one of our stations, Hing Keng Station, which we use really as a test bed for different types of solar panels, and on 2 of our depots. Some of these initiatives will reduce our energy consumption and over time reduce our electricity bills.
Now, let's turn our attention back to David Simmons, who will provide valuable insights into how CLP is tackling these challenges. His expertise will shed light on the innovative approaches and strategies CLP employs to address the energy issues at hand.
The challenges involved in meeting net zero commitments are very substantial. To transition an energy system which has been established on the basis of centralized power generation using fossil fuels to one which will increasingly rely on decentralized renewable energy is an enormous challenge. That requires an engineering feat, a huge amount of investment and coordination of new sources of power coming into the system in a way which will allow customers to continue to have an affordable and reliable source of electricity. And it won't be one silver bullet that solves that problem. It will be a combination of things required. The customer will need to do their part as well in making changes to their behaviours to, for instance, be more efficient in the use of electricity, but also in changing patterns of behaviour to align consumption of electricity with when the renewable resources are most available. We see that a lot in countries like Australia and India, for that matter, where solar power is a big part of the renewable energy mix. And so it's much more efficient for customers to be using electricity during the days when the sun is shining. So that's a small example, but an important one of the sort of contribution that everyone will need to make in order to solve the challenge associated with net zero commitments. I think the final one, though, which is often overlooked, is that as much as technology improves and as much as people will alter their behaviours, there will be at the end still some residual emissions that will need to be offset. And that technology solutions are still being developed, and we will have to watch and monitor that very carefully to see what is the most efficient and effective way to actually offset the residual emissions at that point. It's a constant challenge to ourselves in order to move faster, to be able to decarbonize our own business as fast as we can and challenge ourselves to speed that up. Because, again, we have a multiplier effect here. If we can decarbonize the electricity system, then that, by definition, helps a lot of our customers decarbonize their own business. But it also opens up opportunities for other sectors of the economy to speed up their decarbonization. And transport is the most obvious example of that. If we can decarbonize electricity production and then electrify transport, that is a really powerful way to reduce carbon emissions for Hong Kong across the board.
While we have discussed the importance of energy consumption, it's equally crucial to consider energy conservation and community education. Now, we will ask Melanie Kwok from the hospitality sector and David Simmons from CLP to share their valuable insights on education and social development. Let's learn from their experiences and contributions.
We strive our best to promote energy saving. If you look around the Fullerton Ocean Park Hotel, you can see that we maximize the use of natural daylight. And also, we have grey water recycling system and also renewable energy by installing over 121 pieces of solar panels in our rooftop. Sino Group is one of the 5 developers to pledge towards net zero carbon. We set interim targets to reduce our energy saving, including 2030 sustainability vision goals, as well as striving towards net zero carbon. But this is a journey that we need to work harder together. So just looking at the Fullerton Ocean Park Hotel, we do have an array of decarbonization strategies. So for instance, we have EV chargers available for our hotel guests. When they park the cars, we hope to promote EV charging facilities. In addition to that, if you look around our hotels, we also ensure to have natural sunlight. We do have energy monitoring and energy sensors as well that can also help to reduce the energy. Circular economy is a big step towards decarbonization. So we do work with EcoBricks to have the EcoBricks footpath to help to reduce the embodied carbon during the construction stage.
As a power company, fundamentally what we do makes a positive social impact, particularly in areas where we're delivering for the first time an affordable and reliable supply of electricity. And we see that in spades in countries like India, where electrification to the entire population is only something which has recently been achieved. And renewable energy sources have played a really big part in doing that. But from our perspective, when we do look at building power projects, wherever they happen to be, we fundamentally look to align our activities with the community benefit. And so where there is an opportunity to use local workforces to be associated with the projects that we're building, bringing power to those communities, that's a very positive and powerful way, actually, we can contribute to social development in those areas. I think looking closer to home in Hong Kong, we pay a lot of attention to education as a theme for our social development. And that's a force multiplier, if you like, in terms of impact, where a focus on the education of the workforce, but also contribution to education in society more generally, is one which reaps a multiple benefit. We have a power academy here in Hong Kong, which is teaching young people to be part of the engineering profession and the power sector in Hong Kong. And that's responding to the needs of people who perhaps aren't able to access universities directly. And we have established a power academy with the objective of tapping in and giving opportunities to that section of the youth of Hong Kong, but in a way which also is directly benefiting the business, because we're able to train and develop a capable engineering workforce to supplement sources of workforce elsewhere.
In this episode, we have witnessed Hong Kong's strong commitment to aligning its energy use with the United Nations objectives. In the 2021 policy address, the Hong Kong government established ambitious targets, including phasing out coal by 2035 and increasing the use of renewable energy by 10%. The city has plans for implementing electric taxis and hydrogen buses, and for prioritizing greener buildings, transportation, and waste management. These initiatives will help Hong Kong take significant strides towards a sustainable energy sector. But achieving carbon neutrality requires the collective efforts of business organizations working together with the government. It is through the combined actions of individuals, organizations, and communities that we pave the way for a sustainable future. Remember, each one of us has a role in promoting sustainable practices and in making a positive impact on our environment. Together, we can create a greener, cleaner, more sustainable world for generations to come. Thank you for watching and for joining us on this journey towards a brighter future.